Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a principle from philosophy. Suppose there exist two explanations for an occurrence. The more assumptions you have to make, the more unlikely an explanation is. We all live in a cosmic soup. Every quantum scientist knows that. Yet, why don't we perceive that? Wise men have been talking about that for thousands of years. They don't use the word quantum. Behind your breath lies the answer. It's as simple as that. We make it so complicated. In silence, one can perceive the ocean of life. Daily, close your eyes. You will solve this riddle. The more assumptions you make, the further away you get from the truth. The simpler assumptions you make, the closer you are to the truth. Being complicated is a state of mind. Being simple is a state from the heart. A child is simple and full of love. Modern day man is quite complicated and starts many wars. Simplicity leads to truth. Truth leads to simplicity. To make things complicated will never solve the problem. Even the most complicated software program is built up of simple solutions and algorithms. A wise man contemplates the impermanence of life. When a man understands the impermanence of life, he starts looking for the jewel within. The modern day world thinks that happiness exists externally. If the world isn't impermanent and in constant change, how can your happiness be stable? 95% of your actions are dictated by your subconscious. How much are you running the show? A wise man understands that he can reprogram the hardware, software, and operating systems within his being. An ignorant man will let the computer operate on self-control. A wise man will hesitate before acting upon an angry thought. How many people in prison regret the action they took instead of hesitating for just a second? It takes around 30 days for a habit. It takes around 30 days for a habit to be rewired into your neural circuitry. One who understands this can change his world. Small baby steps are needed along the way. One does not leap into infinity. You are the universe, and you just don't know. If thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Quantum physics and the mysteries of old are both talking about the same thing. Without sophisticated computers, how did the ancient ones with such incredible ideas talk about the formation of the universe? I think, therefore, I'm confused. In silence, the mind learns slowly to slow down. A silent mind is the most precious mind. A mosquito mind constantly bites man. Events that happened many moons ago exist inside your body and mind. It takes less than a fraction of a second for you to be reminded of an event, whether it was good or bad. Holding on to anger is drinking your own poison. Present day scientists confirm that statement today. Meditation is the key to discovering your true nature. Only looking externally will never solve your problem of finding happiness. A person who wanders has no destination to go to. A traveler in life knows the road to his destination. A wanderer will never find his soul. A traveler will discover his soul and go back home. A wise man blames no one, including himself. An ignorant man will always blame others for his troubles. Wisdom and information are not the same. Wisdom comes from within. Information are snippets of unreality. If there's a spectrum of darkness to light, wisdom and information would be at entirely different ends of the spectrum. We see about 1% of the light spectrum, yet we think we know it all. A wise man, day by day, moment by moment, tries to see the light behind all things. Truth is the consciousness of bliss. When the mind is absorbed in truth, the consciousness will be in bliss. Only a wise man comprehends this riddle. How can a fish drown in water? How can a man choke in his own words? One day, a dear friend said, "Do you know the meaning of Fletcher?" I did not. He said Fletcher means bullseye. To sin means to miss the mark. I like that. The disease is when the mind is not at ease. A mind that is not at ease will not be able to sleep well at night. Companies will work you to death if you allow them. Job interview once when they required you to work 60 to 80 hours a week. I said, I didn't come down to this planet solely to work, and I promptly left the interview. If you don't like your job, then leave. Find something that you love to do. If making money is more important than being in a job you hate, your priorities are wrong. Shortly, we will be having several trillionaires. Are they satisfied with their money? No, they want more and more. On my travels around the world, I have seen people with absolutely no money yet have a smile on their faces. Can solve the hunger problem if the world is on the same page. We are going from me to we. All this wars and misery have come from the state of awareness of me, me, and me. If a politician is not kind, then vote them out of office. Don't buy anything from companies that take advantage of people or the environment. If there was a worldwide shutdown, strike, companies would have to change their ways. Conscious economics is the way of the future. Our present day economical system is leading us to self-destruction. Conscious politics someday will be the norm. Vote only for those who are kind. Light dispels darkness, not the other way around. You're either the solution or the problem. What do you think about that? The world is living in apathy. Apathy is darkness' greatest friend. A person who is in the light will always have great wisdom. A person who lives in darkness can never see the light of the day. How can you learn to transform from darkness to light? The same breath you take is the same breath the universe takes. The inhalation of the breath of the universe is billions of years. The exhale of the breath of the universe is billions of years. Yet the same power of breath is the essence of all. A wise man learns to be aware of his breath 24 hours a day. Your mind is like a tuning fork. Whatever it focuses on, it becomes. If you only focus externally, you will never see the light of day. A wise man places his focus behind his breath and discovers the jewel within. You are your own chemistry set. You are responsible for the chemicals, either good or bad. Nobody ever told you that you were responsible, except for the wise men of old. Much of today's great advancements are the foundations built upon the great shoulders of civilizations that existed thousands of years ago. As a kid, I saw that James wore a mask. I couldn't understand that concept. Yet today, with COVID, I completely understand the meaning behind it. COVID was a way for Mother Earth to tell us to go to our rooms and think things over. We did not do very well with that. In the last few weeks in my daughter's office, numerous people got COVID. The only person wearing a mask was my daughter. Being bored is a state of mind. Many people don't realize how bored they are until they try to meditate. The most difficult thing to control and conquer in the entire universe is your own mind. One must live in the center of the hurricane, not like leaves scattered in the winds. The majority of the world can't turn off the faucet of adrenaline. Therefore, they're completely stressed out. A wise man learns to turn on and turn off the faucet when needed. A wise man just smiles at life. He has nothing to prove. An ignorant man will try to change you. He will get angry if you don't see his way. Many wars have been started that way. Tell me, what is a mango in less than a word? Feet on the ground and your head in heaven. Be like the lotus flower. Its roots are in the dark, swampy water. The flower never touches the dirty water. Curveballs will always be thrown your way. A wise man understands this and just laughs at the curveballs. One who doesn't understand this will constantly be thrown curveballs that will rattle your cage. The universe is in constant change and flux, therefore curveballs will be thrown your way. Nobody gets a free ride. The same curveballs can be thrown at two different people, and both of them will act differently according to their understanding of life. A wise man will laugh at the curveball being thrown. The ignorant man will say, "Woe me." If you break the laws of nature and the universe, it will come back to haunt you. Karma is for every action. There is an opposite and equal reaction that occurs. This is both good and bad actions. To discover your true nature, one must eliminate karma in one's life. One who learns not to react to any given situation will start karma in his tracks. If you react to any given situation, you are building karma in your life. Remember, curveballs will always be thrown your way. Nothing will last forever if you focus only on the external. We have been living in this situation for thousands of years, and yet we continue on this insanely crazy treadmill called life. A happy person focuses upon the jewel within and also does his duty in life. One who understands and is in union with his soul is the complete man. The universe will not give you its great secrets until you're peaceful. And unfortunately, the genie got out of the bottle with the discovery of the atomic bomb. It's a miracle we haven't blown ourselves up. Don't allow anyone the capability to push that red button if they are not a stable man. A man who cheats, lies, and steals should never be president of the United States of America. Your human body is the most precious in the entire universe. God is hiding inside of you. You are made in the image of God. What is that image? Modern day scientists would call it the quantum field. You are made in the image of the quantum. One who lives his life externally will never understand this message. The wise men of old have used different terminology throughout the ages, and yet the essence is the same. The modern day scientist tries to discover the keys to life externally. The mystics of old uses the microscope of the mind to discover the great mysteries that lie within. You are the food that you eat. No wonder the world is in chaos when you eat nothing but junk food. Junk food will lead to a junk body. A junk body will lead to a junk mind. A junk mind will lead one to toss and turn at night. One who tosses and turns all night will never get a good sleep. If you don't get good sleep, you will barely have any energy the next day. The cycle goes on and on. The James knew about the microballoon many moons ago. People would scoff at the idea of such a thing. Today, modern day scientists are in complete agreement with this concept. If you eat tons of sugar, your microbiome will say to your brain, I want more sugar. This causes constant sugar cravings, which leads to eventually the shutdown of the entire body, one part at a time. A wise man eats foods from the entire color spectrum of life. He understands how important it is to take care of your inner garden. I once was talking to a friend. I mentioned the inner garden. He stopped me in my tracks and said, What inner garden? That's my point. Just think, there are trillions of bacteria and viruses existing inside of you. They're either your friend or enemy. Only you determine that by the food you eat and the lifestyle you have creates the environment. You can never rest on your laurels. One can never clap your hands and say, I've learned all. I have practiced preventative medicine for over 50 years. Yet this year, I had the most serious health crisis in my life. There's a hidden meaning behind all crises. One can moan and say, poor me, and never do anything about it. The other person can gather great wisdom from the crisis. I was told by many doctors that diabetes can never be completely healed. I thought that over and thought they are correct if you never want to change your lifestyle. Many people take drugs for their diabetes without changing their lifestyles. You are your own doctor. I have a friend who went to the doctor and he gave her one medicine. Within a year, she was on over 20 different medicines. When I was young, I didn't understand the Knights of the Round Table with all their morals and ethics. Today, I see that makes the difference between night and day. The Dalai Lama once said, "Kindness is my religion." Kindness is the greatest strength in the universe. Many people think that kindness is a weakness. It's so easy to get angry when someone does you wrong. Anybody can do that. But to be kind in the face of adversity is a different story altogether. If anyone thinks that a negative virtue is a good thing, one doesn't understand the mysteries behind life. We once had a president who never learned how to forgive. He thought forgiveness is a weakness in life. This viewpoint leads to a man's own self-destruction in the end. If you owe a man money, then pay him. Once had a president or who provided services for him and never paid them. Yet we allowed him to be president. Unfortunately, we are sawing off the branch we are sitting on. I often see people support the president's actions by saying he won the election. If the shoe was on the other foot, they would not be saying the same thing. One must go beyond party lines and see the truth in everything. If your political party no longer believes in morals and ethics and only has power and control, we no longer have a democratic society. Morals and ethics are the building blocks of life. When people in power have no morals and ethics, great cruelty comes upon the land. Indigenous people, which we call savages, believe they are custodians of the land. Modern day civilizations believes in the opposite. We are consumers of this land. Mother Earth is a conscious being, whether you like it or not. Everything in the universe is conscious and aware. If we are totally unconscious of who we are, we will never understand the meaning of life. Your external life will never bring you your true state of being and consciousness. Therefore, we think the life of a mystic has no meaning at all. One must learn to surf the waves of the ocean internally. One who learns how to surf the waves will have the time of their life. The ignorant man will be held down by countless waves breaking over him. At some point, he will drown in his ignorance. A wise man learns how, at first, to ride a 1-foot wave. After some time, one will learn how to ride a 100-foot wave. A wise surfer who paddles into a huge wave understands when he falls to surrender to the wave and not fight at all. There will be a time when the wave will let you rise to the surface. One who struggles with the wave is in great danger of losing his life forever. Never paddle out on a day that is beyond your ability. That same feeling of riding a wave 50 years ago exists inside of you. Surfers ride the external waves of life. Mystics ride the internal wave of life. Both have great respect for the ocean of life. Think outside of the box. Your box will confine you. Be weird. The world does not like weird people because they are non-conformists. Mock the system. When I was 18, I practiced yoga, and many people thought I was a communist. Today, yoga was taught almost anywhere you go. Always learn to block the system, and eventually the system will become mainstream. Peace will come when we start bucking the existing system. When I worked at the observatory in Maui, we would occasionally recalibrate all our systems. If an instrument was off, it could cause disaster to what we are doing. We need to recalibrate all the systems in the world today. Our present-day systems are causing our demise. China looks at systems 10 generations down the line. Most of the Western world only looks for 90 days and short-term profits. No wonder we are sawing off the branch that we are sitting on. Conscious economics looks at countless generations down the line and the impact they have on it. A mansion will never make you happy. Granted, it will be short happiness. Tell me how much happiness you will have when you have your house burnt down. When I was young, I wanted this certain toy for Christmas. I got this toy and loved it for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, something changed. I never wanted to look at this toy again. In the old days, when you bought a record, you would play it on the record player. The first time was absolutely incredible. That was my favorite song. The more you played it, the more unhappiness you got. There was a point when you listened to that song so much, you actually hated that song. The more complicated your life is, the more complicated your life will be. Complicated life will lead to constant mosquito bites that will irritate you to the core. Only through true silence can one heal the mosquito bites of the mind. The mind is either your best friend or your worst enemy. Unfortunately, we are a mixture of the two because we focus externally. Someday our mind is our friend. In the next moment, our mind is our worst enemy. Did you know, according to the James, everything has a substance to it, including your thoughts and actions? Karma is a quantum substance that exists inside of you. The Jains have a systematic way of healing this internal yet subtle substance inside of you. We live such a gross life. We aren't even aware of the subtle things inside of us. We think we see the entire picture of life. We go to the movie theaters and get sucked into the movie. It is so real. We think that is reality. The wise man will turn his head around and see there's a light coming from the projector, which hits the screen, and we see the movie. The wise man understands. The wise man will learn to, to identify with the light that false images on the screen. Craziness is doing the same thing over and over again. This sums up our chaotic world. We do the same actions over and over, and we think we can overcome our problems. To change this world and its problems, we must think in an entirely different, new way. You are the piece of the puzzle. Without your piece of the puzzle will never be complete. Where did yesterday go? I think, therefore, I'm confused. Education is the foundation of a society. Why do rock stars make millions while teachers today hardly can survive on their salaries? If the youngsters of today aren't educated properly, what happens to our society? If your society is not educated properly, ultimately this will lead to the demise of a country. All past civilizations' demise came when morals and ethics got completely lost. When power and control are more important than morals and ethics, this will lead to the end of a great civilization. We can change only if we want to change. If we are not tolerant of the other person, then we can't see the forest from the trees. Being intolerant leads to wars in the end. A nation that goes to war will never be peaceful. Peace is not the absence of war. True peace exists inside of you. A wise man gathers wisdom both externally and internally. External wisdom helps him in his daily life. The internal wisdom helps him to be in state of harmony with nature, the universe, and his own soul. We need people like King Solomon to be in power. Only a wise man can rule others with compassion and kindness. A ruler who has no kindness should never be able to rule others. In this day and age, if any ruler invades another country, he is not a ruler, but a murderer. Citizens around the world should vote out of office anyone who is not kind. Our retirement fund should never be in a place where they can be raided. Our retirement fund should never be based on the stock market. Can you imagine if my retirement funds were compounded 5% daily for our entire working career? We would all be millionaires in the end. In the 80s, corporate raiders would take over companies and invade and steal entire pension plans and get away with it. The big business proudly says greed is good. This is still being unchecked today. We have some individuals who in a very short time will be the very first trillionaire. Just think, if you spent $100,000 a year for around 34 million years, that would be $1 trillion. The one percenters make more money than half of the United States citizens combined. The concept of landowners and serfs is still alive today. Most of our laws come from the people who give money to our politicians. In return, they will do their bidding. The politicians and the lobbyists are both sleeping in the same bed. A politician out of office will become a lobbyist. A lobbyist will someday become a politician. The common person will never be served properly. Politicians are interested solely in holding on to their power today. They will even forego ethics and morals, even when they know the truth. That's something that is a lie. They will perpetrate the lie. Just think, in the 70s, President Carter put up solar panels at the White House. He invested millions of dollars in research. The next president came into power and took the solar panels off the roof and canceled the contracts. We have a serious problem today that we should have been working on in the last 50 years or so. It takes around 100 years or so for the system to be mainstream. Time is ticking away and is no longer on our side. Whether we like it or not, the world and its climate are changing dramatically. Yet, we continue along as if nothing is happening. We even had a president pull out of the Paris Accords. Why is a man like an ostrich putting his head in the sand? Why is society not spearheading practical solutions for all problems? Each citizen will be a part and parcel of that process. If society at large doesn't see the complete picture, they will lose their lives aimlessly pursuing happiness that never exists externally. If you allow a dumb man to live a dumb life without teaching him how to fish, then you are to blame. Education is the means to make a dumb man truly wise in the end. True education is not regurgitating facts. Johnny, please turn to page 1 and read the second paragraph. True education is not just knowing the facts without knowing the reasons why. How can we learn from that situation and not make the same mistakes over and over again? Going to school should be the most exciting thing that a young child can do. We make it so boring that a child wants to ditch school. A child will doze off in class and be bored by the teacher's words. I had some teachers in my life that I never in 1,000 years would want to miss their classes. I had some teachers that I hated to attend their classes. To learn new things should be exciting. It should send goosebumps up and down your body. In my eyes, this is the criteria of learning. Does the teacher contain this precious wisdom to convey the class that he is teaching? If a teacher is boring, the students will be bored and never be able to learn properly. A bored student will lead to a life outside of the classroom, where he will do ridiculous acts to express his boredom. I'm bored. Society will lead to alcohol and drugs addiction. Alcohol and drugs are our way to numb the harshness and apathy that we have in our life. Many people think that alcohol and drugs will help their lives. Unfortunately, ask any person who's addicted to drugs or alcohol if it has solved their problems in life. Just think in the beginning of a drug user's experience, the first time there's such a high. Upon subsequently use, the person will never get the same high as the first time. The mind is addicted, that is looking for happiness that only had temporarily during the first time. A wise man understands there's an internal drug inside that gets better with age. It is truly like wine, where the bottle of wine gets better with time. Even modern-day scientists knows that meditation produces chemicals that totally change the chemistry in the human body. The human body is wired for these precious chemicals to be released. Every thought you have produces a positive chemical or a negative chemical inside of you. Why don't they teach this in school? No, I don't know. You would think the most basic thing about how your thoughts control your chemistry side inside of you. You would think this would catch on, and everyone would be consciously turning off the bad chemicals and only allowing the right chemicals to be released into the human body. Man thinks that only external events can change the chemistry set inside. There are hundreds of stories where in less than a fraction of a second, everything they knew was taken away. Unforeseen events will occur. Someday, your loved ones will never be around again. You will lose your job. The stock market will crash. Your political party will be voted out of office. Your body develops a major disease. Someday, without you knowing it, the life you live will be taken away. Everything you know and cherish will someday disappears into the night. Why don't we learn this lesson and focus on what is keeping us alive? If one understands the video game of life and its rules, one will truly have a happy life. The problem is, some majority of the world doesn't even understand there is a video game. There is a rule book. The rules clearly state there's no way you will find happiness in this world. This rule is clearly ignored, and mostly people don't even know about this rule. Somehow in mainstream consciousness, we believe in this. It's even built into the Constitution that the pursuit of happiness is a given right. Unfortunately, the founding fathers didn't say the pursuit of inner happiness. By pursuing inner happiness, one will have external happiness. This internal happiness will not be dependent upon external events that always change. When your happiness is dependent upon something else external, you, my friend, are a sitting duck. Your happiness will soon be taken away. I'm not saying don't try to have a life of happiness. I'm saying if you have internal happiness, then no matter the outside circumstances, one can smile at life. Pleasure and pain both lead to the same place externally. Internal pleasure can eliminate the external pain. External pain can never bring you internal pleasure. Anything external in your life will be ultimately a mixture of pleasure and pain. The world is out of balance with nature and the universe. Therefore, the external world is full of chaos. The ancient ones told talk about how important it is to be in balance with the universe. Current day man is so out of balance that everything we do is distorted and deformed. We think we have critical thinking. How can we have critical thinking when our critical chemistry set is totally off balance? The chemicals that we are pumping into our body is not in harmony with the universe. One will not have proper thinking. Einstein said about the source of wisdom exists in silence. If you want to experience wisdom, you must know how to be silent. The wisdom we have today in this world from our politicians is limited wisdom. When the mind and body is lacking wisdom, how can you govern properly? In our world today, especially in the United States, both parties don't know how to compromise. We used to know that. In the 60s, both parties would fight one another, and yet, at the end of the day, they would go to a beer and do cheers around a glass of beer. They would let bygones be bygones. Unfortunately, today, we hold daggers in our hands and will never forget the words the person said to us. United we stand, divided we fall. Which direction are we going? The quantum scientists of today understand the basic fundamental energy is the same throughout the entire universe. Yet, we are still living in the Newtonian world today. Our understanding is only survival of the fittest. We see that the most powerful try to maintain the power and control. Charles Darwin understood that cooperation is the means for the survival of species. Unfortunately, people look at his words and twisted them. Therefore, today, this is his main slogan. A few years back, I heard an experiment when they took angry chickens and put them into one area. They took the happy chickens and put them into another area. After around 5 years, the angry chickens were put into a separate area. Not one of them existed. The happy chickens are going on their merry way. We have politicians who are angry chickens. How much longer can we go on with this? Insane. Did you know that social media is more addictive than cocaine? The social media companies even hire the best experts in the field to make this possible. They do this so they can make more money. They do this intentionally, and you have no idea that you're being played on. This is not a conspiracy theory. There are many moral people who helped develop this technology, who come out in the open and expose this. What's going on behind the scenes? Unfortunately, once the modern day events that comes out in the open, it quickly disappears into the night. It seems that the cards are stacked against you. While I will admit, at times, I agree with this. Some old have said that you can learn how to live outside of the stack of cards that are dealt to you. When one learns how to play the poker game that exists inside, one will not play the external game any longer. The internal game of poker, one realizes that the same card of happiness is always being played. The same game of complete bliss is being dealt to you. The entire universe is on your side because you are the universe. Why would you want then to play the external poker game of life when you know the rules are stacked against you? Because of ignorance, many people make this game much more difficult than it should. Can you imagine that people in power want to control you so they can make more money? They will even devise social media platforms like Facebook where they can pretend you have control in your life. Yes, they have algorithms that they utilize that will get you addicted to their platform. I could go on and on, yet you must understand that you're being played upon. This leads to being a victim in life or a co-creator in life. Victim has absolutely no power in being aware that his mind, thoughts, and actions are dictated by him. He feels his life is controlled by outside events. A person who is full of wisdom will understand that he can control his inner world. He knows he can't control the external world, yet by controlling his inner world, he controls how the external world would affect them. In this state, one simply smiles at life. That is the greatest thing you can do. Most people would laugh at this. I'm going to control my life so much and the others around me that I will ultimately get what I want. This has led to our current thinking today. Many civilizations would say that ours today is the age of darkness. Did you know that the mind doesn't know any difference between watching a war, movie, or violence on TV or in real life? The same kind of chemicals will be released into your bloodstream. Why do we get addicted to violence? For many people, it's an entertainment. To what demise is that? We think that the movies we watch are really not bad at all. After all, it's a form of entertainment. In the old man days, we would have the gladiators of old fighting in a coliseum. Today, we have video games that millions enjoy that kill. This is acceptable behavior and quite the norm in society. Did they, the wise men of old, were just rolling their eyes? People would say they are such far-fetched humans that they are totally off the mark of reality. Who would ever want to close their eyes and meditate? They have been, they have been killed for thousands of years. Yet they simply smile at life while we go on our merry way. Yes, the cards are stacked against you. Remember, the most difficult thing to control in the universe is your mind. When we think this is normal, in reality, it's pure darkness. What I mean by darkness is that we can't see the light of day. I got involved into this world and think it's so real that we never stop in our tracks and think there must be more to life. Therefore, we become complacent and accept the poker game that is dealt to us. I'm not a pessimistic. At times, it may seem like this is the case, but one would cease that we do the same idiotic thing over and over again. One must speak his mind. I know I can't convince you, nor do I want to. The universe does not need any convincing for it to exist, my friend. You do not need to convert to the universe. This is not a religion or philosophy. The quantum field is so mysterious that we truly have no sense of what is going on behind the scenes. It seems like an infinite number of possibilities exist. At first, it seems like one man's poison is the other man's food. Each one of us is custom designed. I harp on this issue so much. Not many people just roll their eyes when I say such nonsense to them. 50 years ago today, this was highfalutin philosophy. I had no clue what was really behind these terms. I was just like you. Today, it has become mainstream in my life. It is practical as the sun in the sky. It is not some philosophy or belief. Truth lies inside of you, waiting to be seen.